Hello, and welcome to the BridgePay Network Solutions training video. My name is Laurie Hawes, and I am the Tyler Support and Project Manager. Today I'm going to be walking you through installing and setting up the PayGuardian software. Before we get started with the actual install, there's a few things that I'd like you to be aware of. First, if you're installing PayGuardian versions 2.2.7 or higher, Internet Explorer 11 is required. If you're upgrading from a prior version of PayGuardian and you currently have version 2.2.2 or older, you'll need to uninstall your current version of PayGuardian and reinstall the new version. Take a look at your device and take a look at the very first line. It should say UIA version 15.0.2.3. If you have an older version of firmware, refer to the UIA Upgrade Help Doc, which is located in the BridgePay support portal. Go down to the very last line on your device, and depending on the device you're using, you may have to scroll down to see it. It should say USB-CDC. If it says USB-HID, refer to the PayGuardian Install Guide, Appendix A, for detailed instructions to change the mode to CDC. If you already have the Ingenico driver installed, verify that you have version 2.80. If you have an older version, go ahead and uninstall it, because we'll reinstall it during the PayGuardian install. And lastly, verify that your device is plugged directly into the USB port on your computer or laptop without any splitters or cable extenders. So with that, let's go ahead and install PayGuardian. So open up your internet browser, enter your PayGuardian URL. The last 3 digits in the URL will indicate what version you're installing. So in this case, it says 228, and that's what we're installing. So go ahead and save. The amount of time that it takes to download the program will be dependent, of course, on how fast your network is. Once the download has completed, you can go to your downloads file. Scroll down to PayGuardian, right-click, and open. You do need to be an admin to do this, so just make sure that you have an admin login. This is going to take you to the PayGuardian wizard, so you just click Next. Accept the license agreement, click Next. If your Ingenico driver is not already installed, it's going to install it for you as part of the PayGuardian install. So at this point, it's actually going to take us out to the Ingenico wizard to install the driver. So click Next, click Next. On this screen, we're going to make a couple of changes. If you skip this screen by mistake or you already have the driver loaded, no worries, we can set this up later and I'll show you how to do that. At this point, put a check mark in the Force COM port feature enabled and put in number 8 in the bottom left box and click Next. You want to uncheck the Uninstall Microsoft USB SIR drivers box and click Next. And click Install. And again, it may take a minute or two to install the driver. Just disregard this message that it was not successfully installed because it will go ahead and install it for you. And click Finish. Now we're back to the PayGuardian Setup Wizard again, so click Next. Accept a license agreement again. Click Next. Accept, you don't need to make any changes here, so just accept these defaults and install. And click Finish. PayGuardian is now going to start. After this initial install, when you log into the computer, from now on, PayGuardian will actually start running in the background. So you will either see the icon down here in your tray, or you may see it in your hidden icons. All you'll need to do once it's installed is right-click on the icon and click on Show Client, and it'll bring up the login screen. The first time you do the install, this may take a couple of minutes because it's actually completing the load of the software. But after it's been loaded, when you go into PayGuardian the next time, the login screen should come right up. So that basically completes the install. Now we're into the registration section. You should have been given a registration key, so enter that in this field. And just one tip, when you're entering data in these fields, click either in the center or to the right side of the field in order to open it up. So I'm going to enter my registration key. Of course, yours will be different because they're all unique. What you choose to enter in the rest of these fields is entirely up to you. You can register it to your city or to an individual. It really isn't used for much, so it's totally up to you how you want to register it. And click Activate. If your registration key is invalid, it will tell you that. So the system does go out to make sure that you're entering a valid key. This username and password is what you're going to use to log in to PayGuardian from now on. So make sure that the username and password that you enter here is notated somewhere so that you can find it, and anyone who needs to log into PayGuardian has it. If you forget your username and password, the only way to reset it is to actually reinstall PayGuardian. BridgePay does not keep this information for you. There is a list of security questions here, so again, make a notation of the security question that you choose and the answer, and click Register. So here's the login screen, and this is the screen that you're going to see from now on. When you right-click on the PayGuardian icon and click on Show Client, this is the screen that you'll be taken to. So the username defaults in, but we're going to enter the password that we just entered on the previous screen. And click Login. Now we're actually into the PayGuardian software. A couple of things to note before we start the setup. My recommendation is to click on Help, click on About, and verify that the version here is the version that you think you installed. Particularly if you are upgrading from a prior version, make sure that this version shows the new one that you installed. You can also click on Release Notes. This will not only show you the new functionality in each version, but it's a double check for you that the version in the release note should match the version that you just installed. One other note, if you click on Help, the user guide and the implementation guide are both available here. You can check for updates, and you can also check your change your registration code if you need to. So we're going to go over to the Settings tab. A couple of things of note here. Under Swipe Transactions and Manually Enter Transactions, I would suggest that you check the Auto Submit box on both of them. The Auto Submit basically saves you one step, so you don't have to click Process Securely when you're swiping a credit card. The other fields are totally up to you if you want to use them or not, or if you want to use them and make them required, totally your choice. So I'm going to click Auto Submit and Save here. I'll click Auto Submit and Save here. Level 2 data you won't use. A couple of notes on the General tab. If you decide to come back later and use Debit Cash Back, after PayGuardian has been installed and you're using it, you will have to force the forms again, and we'll talk about pushing the forms when we get to the Hardware tab. The other thing to note is the Save Signature BMP. It's a new option in version 2.2.7. And what this does is when you run a transaction, it saves the signature if you're using a signature capture device. It saves it to a file on the local computer along with the reference number. It does not save the receipt with it, and they are not encrypted. They're also only on the local computer, so if you go to a different computer, you will not see transactions that have been run on the computer I'm using today. So just keep in mind that if you choose to use this option, it's on the local computer, not encrypted, so potentially anyone that has access to this computer could see that signature file. It's checked by default when you install PayGuardian, so if you don't want to use it, you'll need to come in here and uncheck it and save. The Payment Server tab is where you're going to set up your merchant account. So along with the registration code, you should have been given a merchant account, and you'll enter that here. And you also have a password that goes along with it. The system does know what accounts are linked to the registration code, so if you enter an invalid account, it will let you know that. You can have multiple accounts. If you want an account, main account, you want one for EMV, that's entirely up to you. Whichever one is set as default is the one that the system's going to use. We'll click on the Hardware tab. The Hardware tab is where you're going to set up your devices. So today I'm actually using the IPP320. So that's the one I'm going to select for my pin pad. This does not have signature capture, but if I was using the ISC 250, 350, or 480, I would enter that device here. But I'm also going to enter my IPP320 under the card reader. If you did have a printer that you wanted to set up, you could set that up here. Make sure you click Save after you enter your devices. And then we're going to go to the Advanced tab. You're going to want to change this to RS-232 and the COM port to COM8. If you remember when we were installing the Ingenico driver, I mentioned that we needed to set up one of the screens, and if you forgot to do it, or if you already had the driver installed, you could do it later. So in order to do that, you're going to want to go to your device manager, open up ports, right-click on your device, go to Properties, click on Force COM port, and here is the same screen that we had when we installed the driver. So if you forgot to do it during the install, or if you already have the driver installed, go to this screen, check the Force COM port box, put a number 8 down here in the left-hand box, and click OK. And once you do that, you should have COM port in your drop-down. So you want RS-232 here, COM port here, COM8 here, and then click Save. If I had a signature capture device, I would do the same thing here. Click on Advanced, change it to RS-232 and COM8, and I'm going to do the same thing for my card reader. RS-232, COM8. If you're using EMV, you would click the Enable EMV box. Enable contactless basically means if you have an Android or a phone, you can use that and just hold it near the device and it'll pick it up. So that's totally up to you again if you want to enable that or not. So then I'm going to click Save. Once you've saved all those settings, you're going to want to go back to one of the Advanced tabs. I typically recommend Card Reader because that's the one that has the additional options on it to make sure you have it set up correctly. You'll want to click Download Form. You should see forms pushing on the device. If you see, or if you get a message that says cannot connect to device, there's a few things you can check before you call support. I would re-verify that the device is plugged in, and it shows in your Devices and Printer section. You can uninstall and reinstall the Ingenico driver, particularly if you already had the driver installed previously. I would uninstall and reinstall it and then reboot the computer. You can reboot the device and verify that the Hardware tab is set up correctly. So go back in, go into your Advanced tab, make sure that you saved your settings so that they're all showing RS-232 and COM8. If you've done all those troubleshooting steps and you still can't get the device to connect, then you would want to call BridgePay support for assistance. Once the forms are downloaded, you'll get this message, the device will be reboot, and your device is connected and you're good to go. We have a couple of other tabs that we can take a look at here before we go into the virtual POS. So on the Admin tab, logging you probably won't use. This is basically used for system management and just to log the transaction processes. User management is where you can add users. If you have a situation where maybe you have multiple CSRs that use the same machine and you want to be able to track who's logged in for specific transactions, you can add additional users here. Again, they would have their own individual username and password, which they would have to keep track of. There's two different roles. Admin means that they have access to everything we see here in addition to virtual POS. If you give them the clerk role, they only have access to virtual POS. They will not see any of the admin settings. Again, they need to set up a username, a password, and a security question and answer. You can have as many additional users as you want. Only thing to keep in mind is when you switch users, the prior user must log out and before the next user logs in order for PayGuardian to be able to track that new user. BIN card management, there is one setting at the bottom which you may or may not use, which is called allow tender type. This is only activated if you're using a device that's signature capture. In the case of Tyler, you may need to check this and put all 9s in there if the tender type is being sent over as unknown. That would be something that you would work with Tyler and the client to determine if you need to set it up. Typically, this field is used to determine whether you have debit or credit. And if you put an amount in preferred debit type or preferred debit amount, anything under the amount that you put in here will not require a signature. This will be the only thing that you would use on this screen. File drop, the only time you'll use that is if you're actually using a file drop to move the transactions over. And again, this would be something that would be decided on an individual basis between Tyler and the client. If the client is using file drop, you'll want to click enabled here and put the directory where the file will be located here. Legacy output format is never checked because that's for the old gateway. So you would have a check here and the directory here, but only if they're using file drop. Screen settings are just that. This typically is never changed. Tender type is self-explanatory. They're all checked as by default when PayGuardian is installed, but if you don't take Amex or you don't take Discover, you can uncheck whatever is needed and click Save. Import and export settings can be used to export the settings that are on this current version of PayGuardian and import it to a new version. So if you are installing PayGuardian multiple machines, you could potentially use the export here and import it to a new machine. A couple of things to keep in mind. It's going to export every setting that's on this version of PayGuardian. So if you're going to use that, the recommendation would probably be that you set up as little as possible, because if you have an admin setting on here, it's going to put an admin setting on the new version of the PayGuardian on the new machine as well. So you just need to be careful of what you're importing and exporting, and you will still have to go into the new PayGuardian and make sure all the settings are correct. But the option's there if you'd want to use it. So that really is the setup for PayGuardian. Once you have all this set up, you're good to go. You're ready to test a transaction. In order to test a transaction, you want to click on Virtual POS. And there are a couple of settings in here also. So if you click on the username here, you can edit the profile, which allows you to change the security question and or answer. You can change the password. And these settings actually allow you to change the icons that display here and also the ones that display on the device. So if you don't take debit, or if you don't take, the certificate will take debit, but if you don't take gift or EBT or check, you can save that and it will hide the icons. In addition, you can change the password here. This will be just for this particular user. So it would be the same for the icons. The icon change is specific to the user that's logged into PayGuardian right now. If a new user logs on, they will see whatever settings are attached to their username. And one other settings option here is a touchscreen POS. If you have a touchscreen monitor and you want to use it, you can click this box, click Save, and it will display the keyboard for you so you can use your touch screen. So at this point, you're ready to put an amount in here. You would click Process. Once you click Process, you will get a message on the device that says Swipe Card. Swipe your card. If you have Auto Submit checked, it's going to go right through. You won't have to hit Process Securely. If you don't have it checked, you'll need to click Process Securely, and the transaction should be processed and you'll see the receipt. Once the transaction completes, the setup is completed for PayGuardian, and at that point you'd be ready to finish the integration with the Tyler software. So I hope this has been an informative video for you. Thank you for your time and for listening. And of course, if you have any problems or have any questions, you can certainly call our Tyler support line. So again, thank you for listening. I hope it's been informative, and have a great day. Thank you very much.